Hvaljen Isus i Marija, dragi pratitelji YouTube kanala Udruge Hrvatska za život. Mi se ovdje nalazimo u župi Svetoga Josipa na Trešnjevci u sklopu naše 6. konferencije za život, Život dakle biraj. Nama je danas u gostima Patricia Sandoval, ona je svjetska pro-life govornica i govornica o čistoći. Patricia, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, and greetings to everybody watching.
It was a really pleasure to spend some time with you these days and to heard something about your life. And I would really love if you can share some of that to our listeners and watchers.
So I travel the world telling my story in reparation for the damage I've caused in the pro-abortion industry. So when I was a little girl, the pro-abortion industry came into my school. My family and I did not practice our faith. I had no formation at home on sexuality. I didn't know that my virginity and my purity was something that I had to protect and take care of, that it was a treasure. My parents couldn't give me that formation because they themselves didn't receive it when they were little. And so the abortion industry basically gave me a disordered sexual education course called Responsible Sex, which doesn't exist. And they spoke about abortion being a woman's right. They spoke about, it's a woman's body, it's her choice. And they gave us a lot of condoms and birth control pill to make us curious about sex. And they encouraged us to start experimenting sexually, but it's all a trap because they need a certain amount of abortions every month. And what they do is they go into the schools, they go after the little ones. They say, since parents aren't educating children on sexuality at home, we will be their sexual educators. And what happened to me when I was a teenager is I met my first boyfriend. I was not a virgin. And I was pregnant 3 times. And the 3 times I decided to have an abortion. So I had 3 abortions in a year and a half. Number 1, I thought that a baby destroyed your dreams. I was a straight A student. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to be successful. And the first time I was pregnant, I thought my life is completely over. I believe that a stay-at-home mom, a mom that just cooked and cleaned all day, that's what I thought, was a domestic slave. My parents divorced when I was little, and my mom, she left because she said that she was just serving everybody and she was throwing her life away. And she wanted to live her life. And so I believed the same thing when I was pregnant, that my life was over. And when I went to go have abortions, they lied to me at the abortion clinic. They told me that it was just a sac of tissue, it's a clump of cells. And they never told me about post-abortion syndrome. And after each abortion, I suffered depression, anxiety, sadness, suicidal thoughts. I mean, there was times I really wanted to take my life, eating disorders. My emotions were like a roller coaster. I'd be angry all the time. All of a sudden, I'd cry all the time. And my boyfriend also was going through post-abortion syndrome. He was experimenting nightmares, anxiety, deep sadness. He felt like there was something missing. And at one point, he even started drinking alcohol, and he started to try drugs, cocaine. And that's also symptoms of post-abortion syndrome is drugs, alcohol, gambling even. Suicidal thoughts. 80% of women after an abortion, they want to take their life. And I was experimenting these things, but I didn't connect it to my abortions. And then I went to work for the abortion industry, still thinking that abortion was a woman's choice. It's a woman's right. But it was there where I saw the truth about abortion. It was in the abortion industry where I thought I was helping women. And I didn't think there were babies until you were 5 months pregnant, because I learned that in school. And they trained me how to hide my words. I had to never say baby, father, mother, he, she. I couldn't use the word fetus because that gave human dignity. And I couldn't help women if they were crying. I had to ignore their tears. And it was when I had to assist the abortionist for the first time that I saw truth. We did 50 abortions a week. But the first abortion I assisted was a young girl that was 15 years old, and she was 3 months pregnant. And I stood behind the abortionist, and he took out very very sharp instruments. And she was kicking and screaming and crying. And during the abortion, it looked very unsafe because she was kicking. And I thought, oh, he's going to take the sharp instrument out, the vacuum machine. And I just saw the abortionist ducking. And I thought, wait a minute, why isn't he stopping? Wait a minute, he can't see inside of the womb and what he's doing. He can't see if he took out the whole clump of cells. He can't see if he's perforating her womb. And then I realized how unsafe abortion is because it's a complete blind man surgery. And that's why millions of women die. Millions of women have died after an abortion throughout many years. That's why women can't have children, they're infertile. There's women that have their womb perforated after an abortion. There's women that even have their intestines perforated after an abortion. I've heard many testimonies like that. And since he couldn't see what he was doing, I had to be his eyes. And I was taken into a little room in the back of the clinic. And I literally had to look for the body parts of the baby, which was very shocking to me. And I saw little hands, I saw legs and little feet. And when the head was held up to the light, I saw that the baby had little eyes, nose, ears, and the baby's mouth was wide open because this baby was screaming to defend its life, but the baby was completely voiceless. And she threw that baby away in the garbage, and the 5 parts were found. We had five parts. And working behind the doors was a complete holocaust of killing of children. Women would bleed to death, faint, and I was just looking for body parts all day. And I realized that they lied to me, that I didn't abort 3 sacks of tissues. I aborted my 3 children, and that they lie to women, they lie to men, and they destroy families. And it was very, very devastating. I didn't remember God. I mean, I knew who God was when I was little because I was baptized Catholic. So I started to use drugs to numb the pain. And I was so addicted to cocaine and crack. I lost everything. And I lived 3 years with the Mexican cartel on the streets. And one day I thought I was going to die. And I had nothing to eat. And I was crying because I thought my life was going to be over. And that was the first time in my life that I felt the presence of God, the Father, look down on me with pity. And I felt his presence very strongly. And I cried out to God. And I asked him to forgive me. And very quickly, a woman, a waitress, came out of her job, her restaurant, and she looked at me with so much love and mercy, and she said, "Jesus loves you. I was praying for you in the restaurant, and I saw you crying on the street, and God told me that he will never abandon you, and that he will always be with you, and he forgives everything you do." And thanks to her, I came back home. But it was really my mother's prayers. My mother prayed for me 3 years on her knees before the Blessed Sacrament, fasting and praying. And it was God's divine mercy, my mother's prayers, that I was rescued and that I'm here today.
We are so happy to have you here. I've noticed that you also had some kind of disorder with your hair. Can you please explain this and how many kilos did you have and everything because of the post-abortive syndrome?
Right. When I was little, when my mom left, I was 12. The divorce of my parents, and I still suffer from that as an adult. The divorce of my parents really wounded me. So I started to pull out my hair as a child. And once the post-abortion syndrome started to happen, it got worse to the point where when I was on drugs on the street, I completely was bald. At the end of, like, when I hit my lowest point. And because I was always on drugs, I was bones. I was literally like a skeleton walking through the earth, lost, dead with no life. I was a dead woman walking. And now you can see that Jesus has given me full life. I mean, I just feel like I'm full of life. And so, you know, I think couples that are together and that are having issues, or marriages that are having difficulties, have no idea how much divorce affects a child. It really wounds you. I could say, I mean, I know abortion is terrible and it's horrible. I didn't know what I was doing when I had abortions, but I could tell you that the greatest wound in my heart till today is the divorce of my parents. It's very hard.
And I remember that you said that you were pregnant 4 months for your first abortion, that your boyfriend was very happy about that, so he wasn't put in this group of people who are not supportive, the partners who don't want a child and everything. He was the opposite of it. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I told my boyfriend about the first pregnancy, and he was very happy to be a father. So all the fear that I had, oh, my life is over, you know, I'm not successful. When he told me, you're not alone, I'm going to take care of you. You don't worry, I'm going to be responsible. That gave me so much comfort and encouragement to continue my pregnancy. And I feel like most women have abortions because they feel alone, or they're abandoned, or they're forced to have an abortion, or their male partner is very passive. You know, men today want to support women so much, and I feel that it's gone over the limit. Like, you know, men are, oh, I'll support what you want to do, and sometimes they're not good things, like abortion, right? So there's men that are indifferent or passive, and working with women and men who have had abortions, I could tell you that 90% of abortions are probably because the man is in crisis and he's scared to be a father, and he doesn't want that, you know, pregnancy to continue, and he wants that abortion. So I feel that, you know, abortion is also a male's issue, obviously, and men also need to go heal. But when he comforted me, my boyfriend, that gave me the power to continue my pregnancy. Until my friends came over one day, and then the fear came back. They told me I was making the worst mistake of my life. What are you doing? And then I decided to have an abortion without telling him the truth.
So, Patricia, you said about your boyfriend that he was supportive. He wanted to take care of you and everything. And you choose to have an abortion because someone told you that it is your right and that you should do it, and it's your choice, your body. Those were also arguments for doing abortion.
Right, and I think the root of all abortion is fear. So a lot of women, they think, my parents are gonna get very angry, they're gonna kick me out of the house, I don't have a job, or I can't financially support this child, or I'm alone, or even for shame. You know, there's shame. What are people going to think about me? I'm not in a stable relationship. And so I feel like the root of it all is fear. And if women only knew that there's a lot of help, there's a lot of pregnancy centers in different parts of the world and cities. We just don't know where they are. You know, we need to know where they are. And these centers offer spiritual help, emotional help, financial help, you know, for mother and baby. And so I think, you know, these women don't know all the help that they and support that they have, that there is help. And, you know, yes, I tell women that are pregnant and they're thinking about having an abortion, I say, yes, your parents might get mad at you. They might be angry. And yes, people will judge you and point you, okay? But once you have that baby, it will all change. That baby will be the light and the joy of your family, and your parents will forget. Your parents will be the best grandparents, and they'll forget. And that's what usually happens, you know, during the pregnancy of the young girl that's in crisis. Yes, her family members are mad, but when that baby is born, it's the light of the family.
And I also think that maybe they're not mad, they're also fear.
Or disappointed. Yes. They're disappointed because that's not what we want for our children, right? But unfortunately, it can happen to anybody. And so I always tell parents, we want the best for our child, but if your child, you need to tell your child, if I don't want you to get pregnant at an early age, you know, teach them about chastity. But if this were to happen, I will support life, right? And I had a friend of mine, she's a single mother, she has a daughter, and she said, the reason I did not have an abortion is because when I was a child, my father said, I want you to be pure until marriage. I want you to live a chaste life. But if you were to get pregnant, never have an abortion. Always come to me, and I will always support you. No matter even though I'm disappointed, I will support you. And she remembered those words of her father 20 years later, and that's why her child is alive today, because her father said that. And so we, you know, yes, we are disappointed, we're angry, but we have to remember that life is a gift, no matter what the circumstances, and that we need to support these women.
And so you came back home, and your mother told you that she was praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament.
Yes.
For your life and for you to come home. And what then?
My mother took me to confession, thank God, and I went to daily mass. But, you know, God healed me through the power of the sacraments. He healed the wanting to kill myself, the drug addiction, the depression, anxiety, all that, even the hair pulling. It's been, I mean, I still do it sometimes, but it's been much healed. But I couldn't forgive my abortions. That was very hard. Because not only did I know that I killed, but I saw it. I saw what goes behind the doors of an abortion clinic. It's hell on earth, literally. And I couldn't forgive myself. I knew the priest forgave me because I would confess it over and over. I could hear that God forgave me, but there was something missing. And when I went to this healing retreat, and it's for men and women, usually all post-abortion healing retreats are for men and women because men need to heal too. I actually, during a prayer, saw my 3 aborted children. I saw my daughter, Mariana, my son, Emmanuel, and my little girl, Rosario. And they said, Mama, we are alive in God's glory, and we're praying for you. And they just, when I woke up from that vision, to feel from murder to Mama, I thought that God's mercy was so great and that my children forgave me. That gave me the confidence to forgive myself. And I healed so much. If it wasn't for that healing retreat, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. That retreat changed my life, and that retreat gave me my purpose. You know, sometimes we don't know what our purpose in life is. We don't know what God's will is. But out of my misery, God used my misery to give my life salvation, my life purpose. And so I'm really grateful for that healing retreat.
I'm also doing a healing retreat for the women who have had an abortion, and it's really fruitful, and it's really blessed when they gave names to their children. Yes. So can you please explain to us the symbolism of the 3 names?
Right. So the scripture says, God says, that I called you by your name before you were even born. So God gave us an identity. He gave us we have a name. And it's, you know, women have to remember that those souls are their children. You know, they're children, and they have an identity. And so by praying to God, okay, I recommend women to pray before the Blessed Sacrament or during Mass. Ask God, what is the sex of my child? Was it a girl or a boy? And God will let the woman know. God will let the woman know. And then name your children. Give them the identity. And
how did you choose your names?
So Mariana I chose because it's the name of the Blessed Virgin Mary and her mother, Saint Anne, Mariana. Emmanuel means God with us. And Rosario is in honor of the Rosary, the Holy Rosary. That is a powerful weapon. Yeah.
So about the Rosary, you pray the Rosary. Mm-hmm. You think it's a source of wisdom and source of peace and everything?
Yes. So the Rosary is non-negotiable for me and my family. We actually pray it as a family because it has more power. There are priests and bishops that said that the evil one cannot attack the little children as much when the family prays the Holy Rosary at home together. And you actually, there's a book called The Secret of the Rosary by the Saint Louis de Montfort. And in this book, Our Lady reveals to Saint Louis de Montfort that if you pray your rosary by yourself, you gain the merit of 1 rosary. But if you pray the rosary with a community or with your family, say, we're a family of 5 or of 4, I gain the merit of 4 rosaries. So it's much powerful. So if you pray the rosary with 100 people in your church, it's like you gave Our Lady 100 rosaries. So it's a powerful weapon against evil. There's promises that Our Lady gives if those who are devoted to the rosary. And it's also a way to talk to your mama every day. You know, most of us are married and we don't live with our mothers, and we call them on the phone. And so the rosary, it's like calling your mama to heaven, right? And when you hold the rosary in your hand and you have the rosary in your pocket, it's like Our Lady's holding your hand all day. So it's just, after the Holy Mass, I think it's the most powerful prayer.
That's so good. Thank you so much. I really love this. So can you please tell us how old were you when you gone to the healing retreat, and after that, how long is it past when you felt ready to go outside, and how it all started for you to have this public speaking and everything?
So after my mother and started to pray for me, and I was rescued off the street, I was 22 years old, and I feel that I did my healing retreat at 27, but I was healing all of the abortion, going to healing masses, retreats. I mean, I was going to daily mass. So I felt like a lot of healing was going on in my life. But then when I was 26 years old is when I went to my healing retreat. And that completely healed me from abortion. It was amazing. So I didn't know that I was still angry at many people, or at myself. I had to learn to forgive my abortionists that lied to me. I had to forgive all the educators, the sexual educators, and the abortionists that came to my school. I had to forgive the workers that lied to me also. Even the people that I worked with in Planned Parenthood, the manager that lied to me. I had to forgive people that were involved with my abortion because it's murder. It's really, really important that men and women go to a healing retreat, because it took me 5 years to go. My mother would say, you need to go to an abortion healing retreat. And I would say, no, Mama, I already went to confession. I went to all these healing masses. I go to daily mass. I don't need that. That's not for me. But there was still shame. The reason I didn't go is because I still felt so much shame. Even when I arrived at my healing retreat, I arrived on a Friday. I was in the parking lot and I put reverse on my car. And I was gonna leave, and I said, this is not for me, I don't need this. And a priest stopped me in the parking lot and opened my car door and opened my trunk and took my luggage out, and he said, welcome. And I was stuck, right? But it's so important because abortion damages the 5 senses of the woman. So when she goes into an abortion clinic, she sees everything around her, she hears the vacuum sound, so the sight, the hearing, she touches the abortionist's hand, she touches abortion, she hears abortion, she sees abortion, she smells abortion, because abortion has a smell. It smells like death in that clinic. So when a woman goes to confession, she's receiving God's mercy through one sense, but all the other is damaged, right? Her memory, her emotion is damaged. And so just, a 5-minute confession, it's not enough. And so these abortion healing retreats help heal the whole woman and the whole man. And it's very important that they specifically go to a healing retreat for abortion, not just a regular general healing retreat. It has to be for abortion.
And what were you doing through all these years? Were you working or studying or something else?
After my healing?
Yes, what was life through those years?
So when I was healing, I felt terrible, because, I was, thank God, that he forgave me, but I still felt like a failure. Like I, hit my lowest point. I'm never going to get a good job. No one's ever going to marry me because I had 3 abortions. And when the moment a man finds out, he will reject me immediately. I didn't see much for my life. I accepted God's mercy. I was happy. But I'm very surprised at what God has done in my life. So I have a beautiful husband. He's like a Saint Joseph. He supports me on this mission. And God gave me 2 little girls. I didn't know if I can have a child after 3 abortions, because when you have 1 abortion, you run the risk of being infertile. So God's given me 2 little girls, and I'm still trying to have family. So he's given me a beautiful family, and now I'm doing his work. So it's really funny because I had abortions because I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to be successful, and it was all about me. And God gave me those desires, but for his glory. So now I am traveling the world, but it's not about me anymore. I just tell my sins and my misery. Now it's about him and his glory. So he does fulfill the desires of your heart in a more amazing way.
And what can you tell about the prayer, your prayer life, spiritual battle, or everything that you've gone through?
So when I started to come to God and I went to my first confession, the spiritual battle was terrible. I would have demonic influence at night attack me, physically attack me. I still go through spiritual warfare. I think a lot of us do when we serve God, especially in the pro-life movement. You have felt this also. Because first, St. Faustina said this, the abyss of hell, all hell goes against the priest. They want to, knock the priest out of his vocation. And then the enemy in all hell goes against humans with the sin of lust and sexuality. Abortion is a symptom. It's not the problem. The problem is disordered sexuality that we have. Abortion is just a symptom of that. So we have to go to the root. We have to fix the root. We have to tell people that they need to be virtuous and chaste. They need to live purity again, right? That will solve abortion. If everybody lived purity and waited for sex until marriage, how it was created to be, there would be no abortion. That's the, the solution to abortion is chaste, being chaste. And so the attacks have been great, the spiritual warfare, the persecution is great also when you defend life. But we have to remember that the triumph is Our Lady's triumph. And the victory is Jesus. We get overwhelmed. We want to stop abortion. And we think, the laws are getting worse, or, abortion is spreading like cancer. But God doesn't call us to fix the result. He calls us to be faithful, and the result is His. And we know the result. He's victorious because He died on the cross. So the triumph is Jesus and Our Lady's. So we just have to be faithful and serve pro-life. But my prayer life as a mother has changed. Of course, I have less time to pray. But little prayers throughout the day, but with my whole heart. And I pray now with a family, so yeah.
Those are little arrows in the sky.
Yes, but the pro-lifer, the person that defends life, very important that they're in a state of grace. You cannot defend life. You cannot go into this battle without literally going to confession frequently, taking the Holy Eucharist, and being in a state of grace. Because what you do in the pro-life movement is that you're taking Satan's food away. Because abortion, the sacrifice of abortion is Satan's food. The baby, the soul goes to God. But the killing, the murder on that abortion table, Satan is at the end of that table. He's there. He's ready to take that sacrifice. So as pro-lifers, we can't go into battle being weak or think, or what happens sometimes that if we get too involved in activism, we talk about God, but we are not close to God. And so we have to be very careful that we're in a state of grace and that we are fueled and we're covered with the sacraments so that we can continue this battle.
So this is so good.
Yes.
I think it's so good to know how to battle this and how to go through this and not to become just active and good and like Pharisees.
Yes.
But to be like apostles.
Exactly.
That's so good. Thank you so much. I really love this. So you were talking yesterday about the communion of the Satan, like those babies, and
yes.
their blood and everything that he is doing.
Yes. So I feel that the root of violence in country, and Mother Teresa Calcutta she said this, there will never be peace in the world until there's peace in the womb. And she said, and she said in another quote, don't be surprised when you hear of war in your country and people killing each other and violence. He said it's because it's those countries that have accepted abortion. When Our Lady of Fatima was speaking about the conversion of Russia, communism, Russia is the first country in the world that were having many abortions in hospitals, even before it was legal. Russia is the first country that accepted abortion into their country. That's what Our Lady of Fatima was also talking about. And then after the abortion started, communism started. Croatia, you guys have experienced war here, but now war is still going on in Croatia. It's the bigger than the one that happened in the 90s, because now it's children being killed by their mothers in the womb. There's nothing more awful than that, and it's still going on. So, a country that does not have abortion is a country that will have more peace. A country that accepts abortion, like Mother Teresa Calcutta said, is the poorest country, and there will always be violence.
And what did you say about the friendship with the unborn children?
Yes.
I like that. It's so sweet, but it's very strong. So
Yes.
can you repeat?
You know, the unborn, they don't have many friends. They have many enemies. And John 15:15, and the Bible says that there's no greater love than to give your life for a friend. And when you serve pro-life, you give your life. You know, we don't have to die physically, but we are called to die to ourselves every day. And you know, when you serve pro-life, you give your all. You know, you're tired, you're being judged, you're being criticized, you're being bullied, you lose family members, you die. Things of you die, but you're giving your life for your little friends that don't have a voice. And I believe that in Jesus' eyes, there's no greater love than to give your life for the pro-life movement.
And what is the sacrifice of being in a pro-life movement? Do you lose your family, your friends?
Yes, the Bible says, Jesus says, I did not come to unite. I came to cause division. Mothers and fathers, between daughters and sons and sisters and brothers. And that's exactly what happens when you start to defending life. You figure out who are your friends and where they stand on life, and even your family members. To this day, I have controversy with my closest family members. We're divided on the issue, and many of them don't speak to me. I've lost a lot of friends. I've had a lot of persecution from the abortion clinic. Also, they tried to throw me in jail, and I knew this when I went public. But you know, when you have peace in your heart, I always thought that peace was being on a beach in Croatia, maybe, and having alcohol and resting. And I thought, oh, God, give me that peace. But then a priest said to me, no, that's not real peace. Peace actually equals strength. You know, he said the martyrs, they withstanded their martyrdom because they had peace that they were doing what God was asking them to do, that they were in God's will. And so when you defend life and it's really hard and everything is going wrong around you and your family members are against you and it just feels like everything's falling apart, at least you can have peace knowing, God, this is what you've asked me to do. And if I die tonight and you come for me, I have peace because I know where I'm going and I'm doing what you're asking me. That's great peace. Yes, peace is not relaxing. Peace is strength.
And I just knew something. There is a difference between keeper of a peace and peacemaker, because the Bible says, "Blessed are a peacemaker; they should be called the Son of God." And what I realized through my life, that someone who is a keeper of a peace, he just said, "Don't move. Let it be peace. Don't talk
he's
too much."
indifferent.
Yes. And when you want to be a peacemaker, you have to go where the war is and make peace.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. And it's really making a difference.
Yes, because when you're a keeper of the peace, you are silent. You don't want controversy. You are
don't
indifferent.
want fight.
Yeah, you're passive, and you are part of the problem. So people that are indifferent about abortion are part of the problem, not the solution.
So what can you tell to men who need to defend life, who have to go to the healing retreat and everything, about the men population? What can you tell to them?
So men, you were created for greatness. You were created to be the authority and the head of the family. You will be held accountable by God. Did you protect the purity of your wife? Did you protect your own purity? Did you protect the way you looked at women? Did you protect the purity of your children? Did you protect the way your daughter was dressed? Or what your children saw on TV or what music they heard? Were you the great protector of their purity? St. Joseph was the great protector of purity, of his own purity, of Our Lady's purity, and of Jesus, of the whole family. And it is your obligation to protect your family from the evil one. And it is your obligation that your family become saints just as yourself. You know, it's important that men, they regain their authority and that they become virtuous because they are the spiritual leaders of their family. And when this happens, a whole family is healed and a whole family is powerful. And when a family is powerful, the society starts changing. You know, I believe that to change the world and to change society, it always has to start at home. You know, it's the family is the most important, the nuclear. That's why Lucia from Fatima said that the final battle between God and the kingdom of Satan will be against the family. Because it is through the family that a whole nation can heal. And, you know, for men that have had abortions, it's so important. You need healing. You have to get healing. You know, we've come to an era where there's a crisis in fatherhood, where 80% of households around the world the head is the woman because she's a single mother. You know, we have many men that are wounded by abortion. So if you don't heal that, you're never going to be a good husband. You're never going to be a good father. There's always going to be a wound there. And so in order to have a strong man, a strong husband, a strong father, guiding their family to holiness and to wholeness, you need to heal first. And so, you know, many kids today, how many kids, they have a father wound. And it's a big crisis that we're facing today. Fatherless nation, fatherless generation. And we need men to take responsibility for their actions and to step up and be leaders once again.
And what about the women who have had an abortion or who want to abort their babies or something like that?
So for women who are pregnant and they're contemplating abortion, I just want to say congratulations. You are a mother already. It's not that you're going to be a mother or you're not ready to be a mother. You are a mother. And I feel we don't congratulate women enough. We always come with, you're so young, what are you going to do? You don't have a job. We always instill fear. And so congratulations, you're not alone. There's so much help and support. There's so many people in the pro-life movement around your area. You can Google that will help you with all of your needs. And, you know, it's going to be hard, you know, during your pregnancy. It's not going to be easy. That's truth. But that child is going to be the light of your life. And for women who've had abortions, there is hope. And there's forgiveness after abortion. And there's healing. And there's restoration. You know, God can restore your life. And God can give you a beautiful family once again, if that's His will. And to look for healing. That's very important.
Do you have maybe some testimony? Because I know that for many years you were at a post-abortive healing retreat. Do you have some testimony?
Yeah, so I've had many testimonies on women who've had abortions because their parents forced them to, right? And that happens a lot because the parents are ashamed because what will they say? And, you know, I think when I am in those retreats, it's harder for the woman to forgive the parents more than the abortion, right? And so I've seen just miraculous healings with the whole family together, you know, with the parents really repenting that they actually killed their own grandchild. You see these women walk into the retreat on a Friday afternoon. You could see it in their body. They're looking down. Their body's hunched over with shame, no confidence. You could see it in their face. And I see God's transfiguration in them on Sunday when they leave. Their body is up. Their face is glowing. There's a smile. There's hope. And you can actually physically see a miracle in 2 days or 3 days with these women. Even just the way they reflect, you know, light and healing. I have seen women who have had abortions by their own biological father. That, you know, many women that have been raped. Usually, rape happens within the family. It's either the stepfather, the father, or the uncle or the brother. That's very common in post-abortion healing. There's a big link between rape or sexual abuse and abortion. Always. Most women who've had abortions, there's some type of link with sexual abuse in their childhood. That's very common. I've seen healing with that, you know, with incest and rape. And these abortion retreats not only heal the abortion, because like I mentioned, abortion is a symptom of something. Something happened to you in your past or in your childhood that led you to that abortion. And what I see at these healing retreats is that not only do they heal from their abortions, but they heal from wounds and trauma from their childhood as well.
Patricia, thank you very much. Do you have something that you would love to say to the post-abortive women and men, and also to all the people, why should I get involved in a pro-life movement? Maybe here in Croatia with 40 Days for Life, and how do you see us here now that you spent some days?
Yeah, so I want to tell the men and women who've had an abortion to not be ashamed, to not fear. God's waiting for you to heal. He wants to heal that part of your life. He wants to set you free. So do everything possible. The enemy will try to keep you away from a healing retreat, like he did with me for 5 years. But please seek a more healing on your abortion. I can guarantee you that you are going to be so grateful that you did it. And for everybody watching, you know, abortion exists in Croatia. I think it's until the first trimester, but you only need the first trimester or a little lot to come into a country for it to get extreme. And, you know, my country, the United States, abortion is legal until the moment of birth. Abortion is, legal, when a woman has an abortion at 9 months, 8 months. If the baby survives, it's legal in a couple of states to kill the baby after. California legalized infanticide. A baby is born, the mom doesn't want the baby anymore, up to 28 days, the baby can actually die and be killed. Many people didn't believe me in my talk, but this is true. We've legalized infanticide. It went from having an abortion if you were raped, first trimester in our country, 1973, to babies now born being killed. And so it's so important that you are involved in the pro-life movement to pray for the women and men who are scared, when there's a pregnancy, to pray for the conversion of abortionists and everybody that works in the abortion industry in Croatia, to actually go to these abortion clinics, if you know where they are, to pray outside. Many miracles happen when you pray the rosary outside. Many miracles happen. And to speak, because God will hold you accountable. Don't be indifferent. If you know a friend that's had an abortion, maybe just say, I'm praying for you. If anything I can do for you to help you, because she needs to speak to somebody. And if somebody talks about, being in favor of abortion, don't be scared to speak against it. And it's so important that you have formation and education so you can actually defend life, and actually defend your Catholic faith. And then you can actually talk to your children about these things of the world that they're learning in school that are not true and that can harm your children. So it's just important that you're active in your formation, education, and that you're bold. God vomits the lukewarm. So we're living in such hard times where you can't be gray. Either you're black or you're white. You got to be, either you're for God or you're not for God. And you just need to be bold and not worry about what people think.
Thank you for being bold. Thank you for coming to Croatia. And I really appreciate having you here. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you. I love this country and I love your people. I have so many gifts. I don't know how I'm going to take them home from everybody in Croatia that's been gifting not only me, but my children and my husband. And so your country is beautiful and your people are beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hvala vam, dragi pratitelji našeg kanala Udruge Hrvatska za život. Ovo je bila Patricia Sandoval. Mi smo jako sretni što smo je mogli ugostiti ovdje kod nas u Hrvatskoj. Pratite nas i dalje. Hvaljen Isus i Marija.